You want me to MC?
Yeah.
I'm trying to do social media stuff. All right, guys, welcome to Friday the 13th panel here at Scarefest. My name is Ben. I'm with Gun Media. I've got Kane Hodder. I've got Wes Kelly. Actually, I should be telling you. I think we all know who everyone is, right? I mean, should everyone nod your heads? Just for posterity. Kane Hodder. Casey fucking Morgan. Wes Kelly. Mustache extraordinaire. Also, co-creator of Fright 13th Game. Harry Manfredini. Composer.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to hear that a lot. Ronnie Hobbs, co-creator as well, and just muscle and do and angry and stuff. Tom Savini, absolutely awesome. We've got the creator, Sean S. Cunningham. We got Dan Garcia Ilphonic. He is the lead programmer for the game, so he's the one that's absolutely making this game gorgeous. And we've got, as many of you might know, Randy Greenbag, our executive director. So this is your panel. What we're going to be doing, we're going to do a little bit of talk about Friday the 13th game, but today is more for you guys. We really appreciate this. This is a horror convention. We're here to support horror, to support Friday the 13th, so we're going to ask you guys. You guys will ask us questions, and we'll just screw around. All right, who's up?
I'll start out with just giving a quick, what is the game? I'm sure everyone already knows that, but we'll just give a quick rundown of what it is. It's a multiplayer-focused game for Xbox One, PS4, and PC. In the game, you play as either Jason or the counselors. That is known as asymmetrical in gameplay. What you're doing as Jason is not the same thing as you're doing as a counselor. Of course, Jason's sole job is to, of course, kill, whereas the counselors have many different methods that they can choose to get themselves out of Crystal Lake. And again, you can ask those kind of questions. We can get into those details in a minute. Right now we have 3 maps for the game. Sort of a medium, large, and large is one way to sort of look at it. One of them is Higgins Haven. The other one is just Crystal Lake, Camp Crystal Lake sort of proper, if you will. And the third we haven't announced yet, but we will be announcing really soon. So that's kind of the quick and dirty on the game. We are shooting for a fall release, which means from now until December 20th or whatever. So we don't have a publisher that's kind of right on top of us making us hit a date on a calendar. So that's a nice thing for us because we get to say it's kind of done when it's done. Because everyone's waited a long time to have a proper Friday 13th game. So what we don't want to do is rush it. We want to make sure it's perfect. So
can a male counselor seek out a female counselor? Take her to the shed and pull the snot out of her?
Shed?
No, not exactly. Can you define pork the shit out of it? Oh, snot. He's so romantic.
But that's why Jason is chasing you, right? Because you're having sex.
No, we can do nudity for sure. We can't do sex because the ESRB, which is the equivalent of the Motion Picture Association.
Who said sex? I said porking the snot.
Anyway, we can't do that because, of course, we would get an adults-only rating, and you can't be on Xbox or PlayStation if you have an AO rating. So we have to try to keep it in the M category or R if you were related to a film. So anyway, I think it's probably smartest if we open up with some questions. I'm sure everyone has their own different. We can talk about gameplay. We can talk about how this thing come together, et cetera, et cetera. Ben,
And before we do that, how about everybody just a little spiel about who you guys are, just so that when people are trying to get their questions, they can direct it at the correct person. Just in case you don't know who you're talking to, you know what I mean.
Does anybody not know somebody up here?
Anyone?
All right.
Okay. Sure. So we got mics up there for.
I have mics up here, just in case. Been immersed in the Friday stuff for a while, and been along 2 days. And I'm sitting, and I say, okay, I'm relaxing, and I look out in the audience, I pan across, and Jason's sitting in the audience, just like a member of the audience, and my head comes back as if I imagined it. Really, their head.
You're sitting at Jason.
Yeah.
does anyone else see Jason? I don't see Jason.
There's no Jason here.
What's really scary is Jason has a date with him, which I think is even better. Jason's dating.
This is when you cut back to the empty chair.
Right. All right, go ahead. Go.
All right, so what I'll do is I will walk over to you. If you've got a question, just raise your hand.
That was going to be a short panel.
Yeah. There we go, guys. I got my first question.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So with a lot of asymmetrical games, it seems like longevity isn't as long as what it could be. What are you guys going to do to make it where the gameplay be fun and long lasting for an extended period of time? Like Evolve is a good example of asymmetrical that doesn't fits here. So, as well as how do you guys intend on balancing and make the counselors fun to play versus everyone who obviously wants to play as Jason all the time?
Who wants to take that one? Okay, I'll lead it out then.
Yeah,
Well, first and foremost, we're Friday 13th, so we've got a lot, sort of a nice palette we get to dip into, right? Like there's some cool stuff in that, all the films that we get to touch and put into potentially future content for the game. So there's a lot of stuff that fans want. Some of those things were like Kickstarter tiers we tried to hit but didn't quite hit. Those are things we may be able to do in the future. So those, just those things I think will keep a lot of people excited to continue to come back and play, as well as new levels. Like it's interesting in our play tests that the size of the level and the amount of exterior gameplay versus interior gameplay completely changes the sort of the feeling and the tone while you're playing it, right? If the map is primarily an exterior, so there's a lot of woods, maybe not as many buildings to get into, then you're sort of like running hair on fire type of thing, right? Just trying to get out of, when you're outside, you're very vulnerable, right? Like Jason's going to be able to find you a lot quicker than, for example, in an interior where you have a lot of hiding spots. You have a window you can jump out, you have some doors to go through, et cetera, et cetera. So whenever you start to introduce new maps that may have far more focus on interior gameplay, then it kind of slows it down a little bit and makes it a little bit more cat and mouse. Makes it, in my opinion, there's like the stealth component in that makes it sort of a scary, like hold your breath moment. Whereas if you're in an exterior type of gameplay, it's more just you're running your face off trying to get from A to B, and there's a lot of things that can go wrong in an exterior situation. So that's one thing to also like keep longevity. A new map actually genuinely changes how you play. The next piece of that is people that play as Jason play them differently. Like Ronnie is a stealth Jason, and I like to do some bruiser and a little bit of stealth, and meaning that he's going to play in the shadows a little more. He's going to stand in the window and stare in the window and like creep people out before he ever attacks them. Which does affect like fear in the game. Fear is an important thing that you need to manage while you're playing. Whereas I like to chop through a door, bust through it, and get the sort of the jump scare moment. So it's those different types of gameplay, different types of how you portray Jason is different every time, right? And then when you add on top of that the procedural content, where vehicles are, they're not the same place every time. How the cabins are sort of laid out in the world. It's not, you may go over the hill and say there's supposed to be a cabin here, but this time you played there wasn't one, right? Like there's that kind of content to keep it fresh. So, I think the last thing you mentioned was about, I think you said just making counselor gameplay fun. I think was the last thing.
He was looking for if you want to play Jason a lot.
No, not so much that. So much like everyone wants to be Jason. How do you make like just regular counselors?
I'll let Jamie and Randy just for a second, but one thing about Evolve is, in my opinion, the reason I stopped playing that game is because it required absolute teamwork. So if you don't have other people online that are talking and they're not using their class correctly, the game falls flat. You can't win, there's no one to help you, no one's talking, it's chaos. Our counselors can all do the same thing, just a few of them can do certain things better. So the jock is better with a melee swing than, say, the nerd. But the bookish girl's better with stealth than the jock is. So everyone can swing a weapon, everyone can fix a car or a vehicle, everyone can run and hide, but you just have to pick the trope that you like that allows you to play the way you want to. But there's no absolute, you have to work together in our game. So that opens up a lot of scenarios where, sure, there's 7 people on the map trying to help each other, but when it comes down to it, they're probably going to throw you under the bus if they can and not help you when Jason shows up. So
Yeah, and the gameplay is just jumping off that point. Really, there's a lot of emergent things happen just naturally because everybody has different goals. Sometimes one goal is cut off by Jason. He's stocking the car and you can't get it repaired, but everybody invested all their time into getting the car parts. But now a few of the councils can run down and try to get a boat going, and the other ones can say, okay, let's go call the police and maybe we can escape that way. So like every round, every match will play out completely differently because everybody makes different choices, but also there's just so many variations on what can happen and depending on the goals that everybody chooses to pursue. So it's a lot more fun, and there's a lot. It's kind of like we are giving the players the tools to make their own little horror movies, like the last part of the movie where most everybody's going to die and maybe only one person gets out. But that's kind of our goal, is to empower people to kind of have all these different experiences, so they have the water cooler moments. The next day they can tell their friends what they did and how their games played out that night before, and then hopefully draw more people into the game to keep the community alive as well.
To give you an idea, when we're doing our play testing, what a lot of times is going on, none of us are saying, I want to be Jason, I want to be Jason. We all love playing each and every class, every character, each Jason. I mean, we really and honestly believe that when this game comes out, people aren't going to be demanding. Obviously, there's going to be people that are like, I have to be Jason, but they're still going to love gameplay when they're a counselor. Like, we do not want you to ever feel like you're disappointed because you got stuck playing a character. You're going to have a lot of choice, and you're going to love playing counselors.
Admittedly, I'm a little biased, but I genuinely enjoy playing as a counselor. Like it's a lot of fun. It's a lot more fun than you think it would be. Because when you're playing Jason, it's all power fantasy, right? Like you're getting to go in, you're getting to be Jason, you're getting to murder people. But when you're playing as a counselor, it's much more like watching a horror movie, right? Like you're getting the jump scares, you're being attacked. It's you in that situation, and that in its own just produces a ton of fun. Also, as a quick aside, we're friends with Turtle Rock, the guys that made Evolve. Just throw it on odd. They've changed the game quite a bit. It's gone completely free to play. You should check it out again. I think it's a lot better. They learned a lot. They fixed a lot of their mistakes, and I think it's a lot better. You should give it another chance. I like these guys.
Heartfelt.
Hey, what's going on, guys? I'd like to also add that I think a lot of Friday the 13th fans want to play as the douchebag jock, or they want to play as Shelly. Hopefully, not everybody wants to play as Jason, but let's get to the question. All right, cool. I want to say, genuinely, thank you guys for making the game as a gamer and a Friday the 13th fan for life. I know the game started out as a game called Summer Camp, right? As an inspiration to the movies that came, the Friday the 13th movies. And then, I'm not sure how this happened, but I know Sean, you guys got connected with him, and then he allowed you guys to use the property. And specifically, Sean, can you talk about what drove you to allow them to use, your baby, you know what I mean? And the whole situation?
Sure. The history of Friday the 13th involves a whole bunch of people pitching two things. TV series and video games. And they never seem to work. And after 20 some odd years, I was finally talking with a friend about a possible video game, and he was really a very knowledgeable gaming guy. And I said, gee, that's really interesting. And we decided to pursue it. And in doing that, discovered that Summer Camp was doing a whole bunch of stuff that we contemplated doing. And there's all the due diligence and people going around checking other people out. And Gun is really a great company and good guys. They absolutely love the material and they get it. And it was time. And so ever since we made the deal, it's just been a pleasure. And every month or two, you get to see another little piece of it. You say, holy cow, that's great. That's really, really interesting. And I think it's going to be fun. So I think that this is the right time and with the right people. and I have every confidence it's going to be good. It's going to be great. I'm sorry, not good. Great. It's going to be huge. Massive.
All right.
Can you imagine how we felt just hearing that? Like, growing up watching Friday the 13th and being with bands just like you, and hiding under the covers and peeking out and seeing Friday the 13th Part 1 and 2 and seeing Tom's work and seeing Kane and to hear Sean say those things that he has faith in you is pretty awesome. So,
For sure. Anybody? Question? Random questions. Just ask them. Think about this and ask me anything.
Yeah, Tom.
All right.
I got a question for Tom.
Oh, this what?
How do you in the pornographics get into a movie secondary make a porno? How did that go?
Wait, what? I heard the word porno. Oh, Zach and Miri make a porno. Kevin Smith. The only reason I'm in that movie is because George Carlin died. That was the part he was going to play.
Really?
So they were shooting in Pittsburgh. I lived there. Kevin Smith is a big fan. In fact, he wanted to be an effects guy before, becoming a director. So I knew he was in town. So we were at a premiere. What was it? It was either Dusk Till Dawn. Kevin was there, and he said, "I'm interested in your book." So I remembered that, and I made sure I sent my book to his hotel. So that reminded him that I'm there, and with George Carlin's passing, yeah, why not? Let's fill it in with Tom.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they made me have to look like my dad.
I didn't know that was.
I'm gonna ask you guys some questions, actually, the audience. This is actually, what's cool about this is it's a little bit more low-key, and we're able to talk a little bit. We came here as a support for Scarefest. So how many of you guys, by show of hands, have pre-ordered the game? Who here was Kickstarter? You guys, thank you very much. You guys are what made this game possible. We would not be making it without you. So how many of you plan on getting the game? That's a good amount. I just got to say one. All right, so Xbox, we're on Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC. Who's getting it for Xbox? All right, PlayStation 4 and PC. All right, who wants to play Jason more? And who wants to play Counselor?
Jason.
Are you sure? All right, cool.
So I want to ask, and you guys can just yell.
No, you got a question, dude.
Oh, you got a question?
I'm sorry, you go ahead.
No, please.
No, dude, we're doing questions. What is you guys?
Yeah, please make him shut up.
Oh yeah, he's not wrong.
Sean, we thought the same.
He'll talk all day.
Give him some hummus.
Hi, sorry, I'm really not familiar with the game, but it sounds a little bit like Alien Isolation. Was that an influence in the design of the game?
Yeah, that's one. The game is specifically influenced by several games, key moments from games, in Alien Isolation. That would be more interior gameplay. So as the alien's stalking you, you can imagine Jason stalking you in the same way, trying to hide and do things interior.
Is there similar gameplay as far as in Alien, you can't kill the alien, you can only drive it or evade it? Is it?
Yeah, that was a very cool thing they did, was to keep you fearful of the alien in that game. So you could only drive him away, really, until the end of the game. But Jason, actually, you can fight Jason and you can kill him.
Oh, really?
It's not going to be easy, and you probably shouldn't try. But that is an option in our game, because as you know, Jason dies in part 4. Killed him and they buried him and he died.
And he came back to life.
He didn't come back to life, but he actually died. So yeah, Alien Isolation was one of the driving influences, but way before that, some other games as well. But yeah.
Question here. Yeah, sweet.
Will there be microtransactions, and what do you expect for the price of DLC?
There would be no microtransactions now, but we do have plans that we want to do DLC in the future. We're not going to get into the details of what that is, because that also feels kind of weird that we haven't launched the game yet and we're already talking about DLC. Like, that just feels kind of bad to do that. But we've got some cool stuff that we'd like to do in the future for sure.
Any more questions? Sweet. I like doing this.
Well, obviously, pretty stoked I was just kind of curious about how you all got together, like your all's kind of origins and how you all hooked up and something anything like that.
Sure. So before Friday 13th, we made a small little game called Reach and Clear for iOS devices. And we're now like 1.8 million downloads or something for that game, which is not bad for our first little foray into these games. And before that, we were still under the same umbrella, the same gun. We're video game consultants for a lot of AAA games. So we're almost out of the indie period, where I can say we work on Skyrim and some other titles that are at that caliber for like a lot of indie games. About 3 years or so we were doing that. And I honestly it was fun while we did it. I was looking for, you can do that for so long until you're kind of tired of telling someone else how to make their game better. Whenever it's more fun to start from nothing and be like, we're going to make this whole game instead of like make someone else's game better and they, make all the money from it. Like that you can only do that so many times where you're kind of like on board with that. And then before that, we were working with a lot of game companies that were trying to understand brands and advertising brands were trying to understand games, and so we were kind of back and forth between those two worlds, working with companies like Ford Motor Company and a bunch of brands under Unilever and stuff like that, and that would go back to like Xbox and EA and Ubisoft and stuff, and kind of everyone was learning from each other, and we were sort of the translators between the two, if that makes sense. But
so you guys have all known each other for a while.
Even going back before that, we were video game journalists. Yeah. Writing reviews since we were like 18 years old, sneaking our way into E3, sneaking our way into parties, like sleeping on park benches at E3, trying to just go and meet video game developers and fans. And Randy's been in games for 20 years and more, and we met him. We actually met him through Ben.
Yeah.
Because Ben was also a journalist.
I was a journalist at a business-to-business website, and then I got a press release from these two, and it was 859, and I was in Cincinnati at the time. I was like, what? So I conned him into thinking that I know things. And
Keyword con.
Yeah. So I've been with them since
Cincinnati regret.
But they started talking Breach and Clear, and I'm a nerd when it comes to military stuff, and the way that Ronnie's a nerd when it comes to Friday 13th. So helped out with that, and then I hooked up with Randy through a mutual friend, and he eventually brought in the expertise, and that's how we all kind of got together.
Like Randy worked on Ghost Recon, and so our first game was military focused, and so we kind of all got together on that, and then it just kind of kept growing from there.
I mean, the summer camp started as us sitting in the office spitballing, wouldn't it be cool? And that's where most ideas come from. And today we're sitting here, with legendary horror guys and bringing Friday 13th. And seriously, when we're in our office, we see what you guys do on social media. We see the posts that we're getting, the comments, and over 15 million people have seen our Kills video. You guys have seen the Kills video, right?
Yeah.
We're streaming on
we released a video that has 13 of Tom Savini's kills, and Kane Hodder is obviously doing the mocap. He's playing Jason again in our game, if you didn't know. Yeah, he's playing in our booth. Come by and watch it. It's not easy on the eyes. It's uncomfortable, but it's Kane. Over the years. It's Kane doing his work as Jason again. He finally gets to play Jason again, so that's awesome. And then Tom's designing the kills, and then Dan and his guys at Oponic are putting the kills together, and it's this big, long process. Each kill takes us at least a month to do. Each Jason model we make is about 2 months of work.
My problem is I'm not a gamer.
You still want to be Kane Hodder, then walk around and kill people, right?
Yeah.
Of course. Or you want to run from Kane. Who wants to try to survive Kane? So.
Right now.
I'm going to start running. Actually, I'm going to just kind of ask a question to sort of prime this, because I think it's a good time to talk about it. But the difference between when you're taking on the role of Jason in a film, and how you get prepared for that, how you take on that personality. Compare that to then, several months ago when we walk into the motion capture studio. First of all, you have to put spandex on, so I know it's difficult. Very difficult. It was difficult for me to see you in spandex.
I know, you were attracted. I understand.
He asked me to apply the grease to him to then put it on, and that's where I'm like, I draw a line. I can't do it. But now, when did you go into detail, I was talking about the differences between those things, and how it was one easier than the other, or et cetera, et cetera?
Well, I mean, at the beginning, doing the mocap was a little tricky because of how I looked. I mean, let's face it, you know, if you're wearing all the makeup and the mask and everything, you feel more in character. So I think it was a little more challenging to feel in character wearing the mocap suit, but it didn't seem to take long to feel like I was back there. Because, and I've talked about this before, even in the Jason panel I talked about it, I went on too long about it, and fucking people gave me shit about talking too much about it.
What a whiner.
But I felt, first of all, I felt honored that they wanted me to do it, and I was very happy to do so. But the fact that I could be on the mocap stage in that spandex and look at a monitor and see myself immediately animated as the character, maybe that's pure ignorance and stupid that I didn't realize that would be the case, because I did motion capture for a similar game 8 or 9 years ago that was shelved and never came out. And they didn't have the capability of instantaneously animating me. So whatever movements I was doing on the stage, I could watch on the screen and see them moving as Jason. So that helped me feel a little more in character. And then, you know, once I started doing the violence and stuff, it all came back pretty easily. I don't care what I'm wearing, I'm gonna break your fucking back. I'm gonna twist your head off and, you know, do that stuff. So I may look different, but hopefully I don't act any differently, and it's just been a lot of fun, and I'm just very, very appreciative that you know, I'm doing it, because it does feel good to be back as the character.
Well, why were you wearing a tutu? That's what I want.
In my case, it was a 4-4, but.
Okay, for the guys at Gun and Alphonic, when the horror community found out that we're getting the Friday 13th game, we kind of heard collectively, it better not suck, over and over and over again, because that's just the way
the first one did.
Well, I didn't want to say anything, but maybe. But now the reaction's getting really, really, you know, positive. But what has the pressure been like for you guys, especially at Alphonic? What has the pressure been like? Because you have some really tough critics that you're going to have to impress.
Dan?
The hype is real. It's real, and most of the dev team is online at all times. Like, we see all of the stuff. We're trolling the subreddits. We're looking at all of the tweets. We're all over the place. All of the fan videos. The amount of people that clings to the virtual cabin, which is a thing you can buy now if you go to f13.com. Nice. But like, the fan reaction to that has been absolutely insane, and that's a thing that like a handful of us put together on the side, like in our spare time while we're also working on the game, and that's been phenomenal. It's definitely the biggest thing I think we've worked on as a studio. It's our stuff. I don't know. I don't think words can describe it. It's bananas. It's just absolutely crazy.
You guys said you were journalists.
Yeah.
Does that mean you wrote reviews about other video games?
Yes, they did. I worked on the business-to-business side.
So will there be like advanced reviews coming out?
We have been contacted by just about every major source within our industry, all asking about it, like every day. The hype is real.
Nothing's been published yet?
Absolutely. So I do social media. Like, I'm the guy, if you guys tweet at us, like if you're tweeting or commenting or something on Facebook or Instagram, that's generally me responding. I don't sleep more than 6 hours a day, and I'm usually looking at that. And my God, you guys hit us all the time. It's awesome. It's overwhelming, and it keeps us going every single day because we know, I mean, this game, it's 26 years since the last game. I mean, 26, right?
Is that math right?
I can
anybody math good?
You know I can't math, right? This is a running game.
1989.
So I'm 20, I was born in 89, so 27.
So yeah, everyone, including Randy, and there's the perception out there that if you don't know the story of our game, that you assume it's a AAA title, and you assume 100 people are working on it, and there's a budget of $30 million, and they have a staff of 200 people or whatever. That's not the case. There's 20 to 30 to 40 of us total, and
At most.
exactly, and that includes us, and we're trying to do the work of a major studio. So that pressure is absolutely the heaviest they can ever
There's
be.
no doubt about it. I mean, the difference, I guess, I shouldn't say the difference, but for us, we approached it first and foremost as super fans to Friday the 13th, and we wanted this game. It wasn't as if that we were kind of sitting around doing our own thing, and someone came to us and said, "Hey, would you like to make a Friday the 13th game?" And we weren't like fans of it, which I think in some instances, like something that's associated with a licensed IP, like usually the game's kind of, probably because it didn't get land in the hands of someone that was a fan. But our story is very interesting in that we were making a game called Summer Camp, which was a love letter to slashers of the 80s. So we were already like
asking them out on the face.
Yeah, right. Right. We were kind of already flirting with Sean. Sean just happened to be like, okay, let's go on a date, and it worked out.
Or porking.
Or right. But what I mean, if you boil it all the way down to like how do you equate that hype? It's for all of us on this team, and we know it comes from authenticity first and foremost. Like without question, that is in every single conversation that we have internally, both from the design perspective to anything that's development, even down to like PR, marketing, every single thing that goes out the door. If someone sees it, knows about it, or hears it, it has to be 100% authentic. So I knew, even when we were making Summer Camp, I said, well, step one is surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, me, myself. So I immediately found Tom, and then I was like, he's not as smart as I thought he was, but no, found Tom first. And
it's not a joke, dude.
And he and I were sharing emails back and forth, and I was like, yeah, man, I really love to get hold of Kane too. And Kane's like, Tom's like, oh, hey, well, everyone kind of knows each other, and so it just kind of snowballed after that. And met with Ken and got introduced to Harry, and kind of off we were. And then that's when we got the call.
They said yes.
I know, they said yes to this like small little indie thing.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool, but yeah. But that all comes from the same place, which was authenticity. Like we wanted to make sure we were doing it right.
It's only pressure because you care about it.
Yeah.
If you didn't care about the game, you wouldn't give a shit, and you would go home and go to sleep at night, and we'd get 8 hours of sleep.
Right.
At 6 o'clock, we'd stop answering emails and stop talking to people online, but that's not the case.
Yeah, I had a full head of hair before this game. He's migrated to the light.
Do we have questions? Yeah? Or
how contextual are the kills? Like, there's so we saw 13 out there, which, Tom Spini kind of helped create, which I'm sure he created a lot more than that for the game.
Oh, there's over 40 or something, and there's going to be more, yeah.
Yeah, and so, like, how contextual are they? Like, I saw, like, you're close to a door, you can slam their head in the door, but does that happen?
That's your protection.
We meet almost every place in the map.
Yeah, I mean, there's
a mixture.
Yeah, we have to select kills that work well on multiple surfaces. So you have to think about like flat surfaces and things like that. So yeah, a lot of the flat surfaces you can find there's some kills, but then there's things like corner spots, so there's doors and et cetera, et cetera. So, but we have to think in terms of like surplus, like how much can we get out of this kill in this sort of area. So it doesn't make sense to only have one kill that works in one area, because the chances of Jason and the counselor being at the same location at the same time to then do that kill, it's not really worth it. So instead you have to kind of spread those out. But yeah, I mean, basically when Jason has someone in a grab, he's going to have a lot of decisions to make at that point. Kind of as you turn and look through the world, you're going to see spots that you can take this person to, and then do some of Savini's kills.
Like that video alone, just to give you an example, as you saw the video, the door kill is an example of a contextual kill where from the grab position, you have to carry them to the door to perform it. Whereas if you look at the kill where he body slams them on the ground and steps on the girl's head, he can do that anywhere. So there are some that are environmental contextual, and then there are some that are just barehanded that you can do anywhere. And of course we have a combat system where Jason, which is Kane, and you can swing your weapon real time and chop off limbs and do things like that that don't require you grabbing them. So there are several ways that you can dispatch these counselors. Yeah, exactly.
But there's going to be a percentage of you that will be a counselor and play this game just to have the honor of being killed by Jason in 49 ways, you know. It's almost like being insulted by Don Rickles. It's like, it's an honor.
Any more questions? All right, we got one.
From what I've seen on the game, there's different versions of Jason. Like I think there's the Sackhead, like 3 and 4. And will each Jason play differently? Like I guess it also goes to Kane. Did you play each of the Jasons differently, or was it yours the whole way through? Like will each Jason play differently according to?
So yeah, all the Jasons do play differently, but they're all still Jason, right? So there's going to be a lot of similarities, of course, but based off the movies and the kind of the personalities imbued by them on the screen, you'll see them. They're able to do some things better than others. So it creates a variation that kind of caters to different play styles. So like you might want to play a more stalkery Jason, so you want to select one where you did that. But then there's some Jasons that run, right, in the movies. So Kane had to actually go back and watch some of those actors that portrayed the Jasons that ran, and actually try to mimic their movement. And so you're gonna see Kane driving those characters, but he's doing it, you know, through a lens of looking at and actually trying to mimic, you know, Brooker's Jason and whatnot.
By the way, that's an exclusive that we just dropped. Jason can run in our game.
Hey-o.
So the earlier Jasons who did run on the movies will actually run in our game. So there you go. So yeah, we have 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, and Tom's creating a brand new Jason that no one's seen before. So those are all the Jason models that you can unlock in our game, and they'll play a little differently based on, like Randy said, the way they did in the films. So yeah.
But if you play the cartoons, Nash, Jason is kind of gay.
Wow.
That's a question.
So we'll ignore that. Next question. He's hopeful.
I gave you a chance to get back at Steve Dash.
This wasn't my question initially. I want to ask Kane a question, but can you run through that list of which Jasons are going to be on the game again? Wow, I just wasn't expecting that.
So we'll officially call him Baghead because we asked Steve Dash what he actually wore because no one really knows. It was a burlap sack. It wasn't a potato sack and it wasn't a
Burlap bag.
Burlap bag. So people call him Sackhead, which is not right. Well, officially, he's Baghead from now on. So part 2, part 3, which is Brooker's Jason, and then part 6, CJ Graham, and then 7 Kane, 8 Kane, 9 Kane, and then the Savini remake Jason that we haven't shown yet.
So no awesome. That's
which one?
So no Uber Jason.
Yeah, we had a fan vote actually to vote in 3 new Jasons, and he came in 4th. So
Who came in?
Uber Jason. Jason X.
Who's that?
Robot Jason.
Oh, the RoboCop Jason.
RoboCop.
Yeah. Question for Kane?
Yeah, Kane. Can you elaborate, Kane, on? I mean, I know you started in the New Blood, but I know a bunch of fans probably wish, and I mean CJ and there's other Brooker, there's other Jasons that are super awesome and laid the foundation for what you did. But some people wish maybe you had started a little earlier. If there was revisionist history, can you talk about what it was like to take on those other Jasons and bring those to life?
Well, yeah, I mean, I tried to say this earlier before Tom got all pissy in the other panel, but by the time I started playing the character, it was known around the world. So I felt very honored to be doing so, and I wanted to do everything I could to do the character justice. So I really took it seriously. Some of the other actors have even said themselves that it was just a job and they didn't really care and they kind of walked through the motions and whatever, but I never approached it like that. So throughout the 4 that I did, I kind of tried, even though the look completely changed every movie, I tried to kind of keep a consistent performance, even though the look was totally different. And, you know, some of the movements that I kind of, like the breathing thing and all that, that I feel like I added more to the character, because I always thought if Jason in early films, if he was staring at you motionless, he looked like a mannequin. So I thought, how do I make it look more threatening? And that's when I tried the breathing thing, and I thought, that looks like he's still just staring at me, but he looks like he's about to do something any second. So that kind of stuff I tried to add to the character, and, you know.
Was there one? An on-screen.
Once again.
But Steve Dash was the best case.
Yeah, Steve Dash.
Next question. All right.
So I know you guys appreciate your artistic freedom, but what would be the chances of lining up your marketing with the Friday the 13th movie to where you release your game at the same time the movie come out?
Well,
Sean? You got that?
That's a perfect world. And the company that is going to distribute the next movie is Paramount. And Paramount has a lot of Friday the 13th aficionados that really, really want to make the movie. And then there are other people in the company that don't care one way or another. And it's sort of been a stepchild for about 6 years. I think we are at the point, there's a script, there's a director attached. There's a lot of talk about actually starting to shoot in February. And it's like 4 years ago I would have been really excited. In fact, 4 years ago I was really excited because I thought we were about to shoot. And something has always happened. So we're going ahead with the game without regard to Paramount. If indeed Paramount steps up and is actually going to release the movie at the end of 2017, as they say they are, then we have the opportunity to cross-pollinate. But we're ignoring them for the time being.
All right. We have about 8 minutes left, so I figure this will probably be the last question, unless it's quick. We'll go from there.
It's actually just a comment. Grew up in the 80s. I want to say thank you very much for making my childhood fucking awesome. Loved it. My children are going to grow up knowing exactly who Jason is, just like I did. And one more thing, didn't know anything about the game. I'm a full-time dad, stay at home, have no idea what's going on in the real world. I'm glad I showed up. I know there's a game. Played the crap out of the Nintendo one. I'm really looking forward to the new one.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right. Okay. So we'll take 2 more questions. That'll be it. And then we'll have to go back and stuff.
What is the role of Jason's mom in the game, or how much is she in it, or influencing the character, I guess?
Well, we use we hired a voiceover actress named Jen Burton. We went through I don't know how many actresses till we found someone we thought could nail Pamela's voice the way we wanted it. And the reason why we wanted that was, if you watched the films, sans, like not counting the first one, when Jason is actually the killer, you're never really in the same perspective in terms of hearing maybe what he's hearing, right? Like that's not really happening that way. So that became a challenge for us, is to figure out like, okay, well now I'm a player, I'm playing as Jason, here I am, and I'm walking around as him. Well, what's going on in his head? What's going on in his world? Does he just hear, the crickets and pretty nature, and is that it? Like, what else is going on in there? And so that became sort of two paths we took with that, right? Like, one, we knew, okay, he needs to hear Pamela talk to him from time to time, right? Like, Jason has a couple screws loose, right? So it kind of makes sense that if he heard anything, it would be the voice of his mother saying something to him, right? So she provides a little bit of, I hate that we use the word guidance, because that's not exactly what she's doing, but as the player playing as Jason, you're going to hear your mom say a few things to you that could help a little on the way, if that makes sense. But it's not like a little tutorial. She doesn't come in and go, okay, Jason, this is how you move. Like, that's not what it is, right? It's still very often, very authentic. Yeah, right. Oh, that's true. There is some of that. Yeah, she congratulates you a little bit whenever you've done something super gory.
Freaking
right?
cool.
But then the other side of that too was then landed in Harry's lap, where I'm sitting across from Harry and I'm like, hey, so you make undeniably awesome music in the films, no question about it. As the audience who are watching it, it's a linear experience. That's why I wanted him on the project. But then he gets tasked with a non-linear game, right? So someone is playing as a counselor. You can have 7 of those counselors in a scene. They all run in different directions. Someone goes inside. Someone gets in a hiding spot. Someone takes off running and jumps in the lake. Everyone's doing different stuff. So how do you write a soundtrack to that, right? Because it's all different perspectives doing different things. They're seeing different things. Like this person saw a dead body. This person saw Jason. Well, there should be different stingers for that. Like the music should be different. So sorry that I got all that in your lap. But then also on top of it, I said, does Jason hear music? Like, how does that work? And he's like, I don't know. And so we've been going like back and forth on that side of it, trying to figure out like the best way to. Now I'm tired of putting words in your mouth, so.
Oh, should I say something?
Yeah, you should.
Sorry, time is up.
Thanks for coming in. Thanks for playing with me. Yeah, the thing is that when you were talking about games before, I was clouding over. It would be like if I was talking harmony to you or something. You just gloss over. I don't understand gameplay, but I know that what happens is that everything that I'm writing for this game, very few things are actually scored to picture, like a film. Like last week I did a bunch of the kills, which are literally right exactly with the action that we see. Everything else is a whole set of modular possibilities. And so, like, you might be playing one character and he's playing in the same game with you. You would hear a completely different score than he would hear, and you would hear a different. You literally create your score by the decisions that you make, the things that you encounter, what happens to you as you play the game. So the game, the way I understand it, is the game is never the same no matter how many times you play it, because there's like 10, 14 choices for almost every possible thing that you might do. As far as what Jason hears, we've gone through a number of things, and it's kind of hard to figure out what that is, but we'll figure it out eventually. But there's all different kinds of things. At one point I had voices, but then that was interrupted by Mrs. Voorhees.
Should we hear Slim Whitman?
Slim Whitman and that falsetto. Remember Slim who's that falsetto? But what I'm saying is that everything, we're really trying to make this an experience so that every time you play the game, it becomes literally, individually your experience. It isn't like every time you start the game, you don't even start, am I right? You don't even start the game in the same place every time.
Oh, right. Where you spawn.
Spawn. That was the word I learned one word. I learned spawn.
There's some variety in where you spawn in the game, for sure. Yeah, sometimes you're inside, sometimes you're outside, et cetera, et cetera.
You could be in the lake, even.
Could be.
Right. So, I mean, there's a lot of places you could be. So, literally, every time you start, something new is going to happen. So, I don't see how you could ever get tired of playing this game, because it's literally different every time you play.
Well, all right, guys. It is just 4 or 5:30 right now. We seriously want to thank all you guys for coming out. Stopping by the table, talking to all you guys. It's just cool for us. It's really, really awesome to get there and to see people say, man, I've seen the videos, and I get to talk, and it's really cool. We really appreciate it. Everybody here, like, this is this has been an awesome weekend. Thank you so much for coming out, guys. And we're going to be on the floor still, and we'll be here tomorrow as well.
I'd like to thank all the great questions that came from Jason, by the way, too.
And Jason, thank you so much.
Yeah.